The gentleman that is coming in here sees a side of e-commerce that very few of us see. He knows who's hiring, how much those roles are making, what the best candidates are, and how things are actually operating inside many of the D2C darlings in our space. He also is a bit of a business renaissance man. The guy's
Oh,
done
yeah.
real estate. He's exited this. He's doing that, and he's everywhere. And he also hails from a beloved part of the country for me, the New England. He went to Northeastern. I'm talking about the one and only Connor Gross, founder of Cuss and Hire. Get in here, Connor.
What's up, gentlemen? Good to see you. How y'all doing?
Great hat.
Man, we're
Like,
doing
love
even better. We're doing even better now that you are here, Connor, and we love that hat. And man, I would love if you would just start out and give us a little context here, my friend. I heard you make this statement. I know you're helping brands, go from hire 1 to hire 100 and beyond. Man, I heard you make this statement, and I'd love you to give context for it, that hiring should be your last resort for cash flowing D2C brands, especially at the beginning, 0 to 1 million and beyond. Man, give us context for that, because that is a bar. And if that's good advice that we all need to take away, we need to put that one in our pocket.
Yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally what it comes down to is you look at most other business models, like let's take software as an example, no costs, oftentimes an outbound sales motion or inbound marketing for a lot of how you're acquiring customers. And so very little advertising cost. And you compare that to something like e-commerce, where the vast majority of your cash flow is getting tied up in inventory. The vast majority of your variable expenses are going to go to Facebook, Google, whatever, from an advertising standpoint. And so you have all of this money that you want to put into the two things that are driving growth so much, product and marketing. And then the last thing that you want to think about is, well, who can I be hiring to add to my payroll to do all of this too? And you have so many brands out there that are able to scale to $1, $5, $10 million a year without making a whole lot of hires, that candidly speaking, like if you can avoid hiring, you should. The reality is that at a certain point, certain things start to break. And if you start a business to try to get freedom, and then all of a sudden you're answering customer support tickets, or you're making all the Klaviyo flows, whatever, you want to get to a point where you're like, okay, who can I bring in that can help me take this to the next level? And that's where we come in.
Wow.
I find that very compelling, and it's great framing from you, especially because that's what you do. And so when people hear that at first blush, I think that's really good. Go ahead, Colin.
Connor, what is the hardest role right now to hire for in e-commerce? I mean, you probably see a lot of data and you're seeing all of the back end and all of the conversations. What is that hardest hire?
So I can take this a couple different directions, but probably the hardest hire is when somebody books a sales call with us and they say, I want a head of growth. And it's the hardest hire because nobody defines it. Like there's other ones out there that do creative strategists, TikTok shop managers, and like those are hard for different reasons, primarily because they're like newer. And so like you don't have somebody who's been in this category for 10, 20 years that are doing it. But when it comes to the head of growth, I think what a lot of people expect is for somebody to kick them out of their business and replace them on their entire role. And I think that is it's just the wrong way with a lot of people. And we've been really successful with a lot of performance marketing, growth related roles. But what it usually comes down to is getting on that call and being like, okay, great. You want a head of growth. Do you want the senior most growth strategist who's doing media buying, CRO, and influencing creative strategy from an agency to be super hands-on keyboard? They're going to be tactical. You're sub $10 million. You need somebody who's doing the work, not just managing. Or do you want somebody who's built out an entire growth team of 10?
Yeah.
Big $100 million plus CPG brands, they want the latter. They want like somebody who can build out the entire architecture, the team, do media mix modeling, and like actually understand the teams. Whereas a lot of these smaller brands, sub 20 million, they just want somebody who's hands-on keyboard. They want to bring the agency in-house, or they want to find somebody who can like actually read their Triple Whale, North Beam, whatever their analytics stack looks like, and make decisions so that the founder is not the sole person who is driving growth. So it's a pretty undefined role, but we try to figure out the seniority level and work backwards from there. Only other call out there is like making sure that anyone that we bring in-house from them is very channel specific for how they're getting customers today. I've seen a lot of people come to us after having a growth hire horror story where they say, we scaled up on Amazon and we used TikTok shop creators and we're a $20 million brand and I hired this head of growth. Their whole background was paid social. We never did paid social and we just couldn't crack the code and we wasted 6 months and $150,000 and all of this stuff, testing this stuff out. And so making sure that whoever you're hiring is great at the channel that you are already good at is very important.
That's great insight. And Connor, I find what you said about head of growth being a really tricky thing. I totally agree with you, because a lot of times on the first scenario that you painted, let's say somebody sub 20 and they're looking for somebody to pour gasoline on. Maybe you get them from an agency, you get them from somewhere. I think essentially what a lot of times people are looking for is they're looking for somebody who will own the responsibility of that growth, which honestly, you could argue actually that's the job of the CEO. But at the same time, you don't want to pay C-suite level. And at the same time, in order to do that, you really need to find somebody who maybe they've done it before at a smaller level, but were somehow involved, but didn't own that responsibility. Because when you do find somebody like that, you need to pay them. You need to pay them a whole lot more. And so you have to find this diamond in the rough. I mean, that seems like incredibly hard. It seems incredibly hard to do.
It's hard. I do think there's an audience of people who I think what you're looking for is you're looking for the most senior individual contributor that you can possibly find. There are people out there who just don't want to build and manage teams, and they want to just growth hack all day long. And they also want to get paid well. They're very senior in their careers, but they just don't want to deal with all the people nonsense. That's who most of these people should honestly be looking for. That role peaks out around 200K. You look at some of these chief growth officers, ignoring equity aside, bonus, base, all of that stuff, those typically come out to 350 plus a hefty bonus based on performance, just from a comp plan standpoint.
That's wow.
What are brands looking for right now that they weren't probably a year ago? Because I mean, in that year, there have been so many changes. I mean, Claude has released a new update every single day this month, it seems. Literally. And so that's probably affecting the job description, I would imagine, and the requirements that they're coming in for the skills. So it's now you have to know Claude. Now you have to know XYZ. What has changed in that year?
Yeah, so the two biggest changes, and I'll start with the AI stuff because you called that out. There is a very weird misnomer right now, or a catch-22. Everyone wants to see candidates using AI in their workflow, in their day-to-day, whatever. A lot of consumer brands tend to administer, especially in marketing creative roles, some form of test project to see how well somebody can think. A lot of candidates use AI for those test projects or roles or whatever. And it's this weird catch-22 of okay, I want them to be using AI, but not for this, to see how they think. And so that's a very weird situation to be in, where it's okay, how much can you use it while at the same time not just copying and pasting a ChatGPT response, with all of the hyperbole and weird formatting and AI slop and stuff like that. So that's been one thing that's definitely changed over the last 6 to 12 months. As far as roles and where that shifted, the channel that's really opening up right now is kind of pushing back towards organic reach. So you're seeing a lot of these brands and social platforms with the For You page on TikTok and the algorithm changing across Instagram and Facebook to be less friends and family to more what is the best content. All of these brands are now shifting into, okay, well, rather than just purely doing a pay to play ad spend, let me go after this creator-led channel and this initiative in order to figure out how can I seed as many creators as possible. And so you're having a lot of these brands spring up TikTok shop managers, creator coaches, organic social creators, creator affiliate playbooks, things like that. That there's always been affiliates, there's always been organic social media, but now you're having these people who are taking those channels and thinking about it from a performance marketing standpoint. And so, if I got this water bottle here or this House soda water thing, for example, they'll find 1,000 creators on TikTok, Instagram, whatever. They'll bring them into a Discord and they'll basically say hey, everyone talks about how this is so much better than Mountain Spring. So like make sure to make that like your opening hook, and make sure that like whatever visual you're doing, it's something along the lines of like including an Awala water bottle or like something like that, because we know that that has a really strong hook rate. And so it's people that are thinking about organic in a more performance driven way.
I like that.
That's wild.
It seems like there is a blurring of lines that has continually taken place and is only doing so more. And sometimes people call that person a creative strategist, somebody who's like heavily involved in organic social and also has, output with affiliates and creators and, is inside of the ad account. And, it's like there's been a blurring of social media, paid management, it's like a great blurring that has taken place. Whatever that person is called, man, what does hiring pay? What does it look like? For that new person who's overseeing maybe TikTok and creators and also informing ad creative and looking at organic with a more performative, kind of lens. What's the pay scale look like?
So it depends. I think what's hard is like I can give you averages across all of these. Everyone wants, when they're working with a recruiter at the very least, to work with the top 10%. And therefore the averages on the years of experience don't necessarily meet the standard as much. So I would say like typically if you're trying to find somebody who can lead creator growth from a TikTok shop standpoint, it's very similar to what you were probably paying somebody who's doing affiliates and influencers prior, right? Because there's affiliates, influencers, now there's creators. So I don't know, ballpark 90 to 120. Like that should get you somebody who's pretty solid individual contributor, maybe overseeing overseas employees using Yuka AI and like managing the strategy. That should be good from a TikTok shop standpoint. Individual creative strategist, 120 to 140. You can have that also scale up quite a bit based on seniority and like how long someone's been around the block for. And there's so much stuff that influences this, like, how great are their hooks and like what is their hold time and stuff like that. Like that's all great and important, but also how do they build out their creative processing system? How do they structure strategists versus post-production editors and designers? Like that's all really important stuff when getting into the weeds here. But the other thing to call out, and not to rant on this for too long, but like what you said about the title stuff, it is the most confusing industry on the planet.
That's so true.
Again, I'm going to go for another example. Like you go to software, you're an account executive, you do sales, you're an account manager, you're like a CSM basically. Like there's a lot of really similar overlapping roles. What's so confusing in consumer brands and consumer goods and e-commerce in general is that like you can effectively be hiring somebody to do performance marketing and their title's an e-commerce manager. And most e-commerce managers are only on-site CRO work, maybe like touch retention sometimes. So there's so much overlap that you just don't know what somebody actually does until you talk to them. And it just takes up so much freaking time. And unfortunately, I think that's only going to become more and more of a thing as productivity and output goes up because of AI.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
What's really interesting is I think you sit at maybe even higher than the 10,000 foot view of the health of the industry. So you can start to notice macro trends of total job openings and actually see quarter to quarter how the industry is doing. Can you back into any data for how you see the industry progressing compared to maybe what it was a year ago with, total job openings, total capital that's being deployed to hiring, that kind of stuff?
I feel like I might not be able to give you all the best answer only because our business has been around for 2 years. We're doing really well. Like we're growing a lot. Our team's growing a lot. We're working with bigger and bigger companies. When I interview other recruiters to like recruit for our own team, you constantly hear this like doom and gloom. Oh, it's never been harder or whatever. Like I don't necessarily subscribe to that as much. And I think maybe it's a part of just us doing well versus the macro lens. I can tell you this, that I think in this particular industry, once you grow, a lot of people just start bringing things in-house. And like when you're sub 50 million, sub 20 million, it's agencies and overseas for everything. And then once you're ready to like actually start building out a team, people are bringing them in-house and they're doing everything across emerging channels to their core focus. Emerging channels being like the TikTok shop stuff, or, there's a lot of people are doing like YouTube strategists these days too, which is a whole like separate niche. So I see it's less of a macro thing, and it's more of like when a brand is ready to like reach their inflection point and go all in on this, that's when you see them go from like 10 to like 50 overnight. But you can really slow burn it all the way up to like 10 or 20 million without much of a team in place.
Interesting. That's a great point.
I like how you laid that out up until,
Yeah.
you know, a certain point, it's agencies and overseas for everybody. That's a
Mhm.
good point. Tell me this, Connor. It's in vogue a little bit. You see it on the timeline a little bit, you know, when it comes to AI, everybody's just kind of looking for, let me just find like an AI czar. You just find somebody that can just come in
Cracked.
and they just tinker, you know, they
Yeah.
just tinker and it's going to solve all my problems. I think that you are against that though. Is that the case?
I don't know. Well, I'm not against it. Like I use AI for stuff. Like I'll use AI for things that like can make my life easier. And a lot of it comes down to like formatting and like quick text generation and stuff like that. And I'm like trying to even mess around with it from like, you know, can we build landing pages faster with AI? And it's good, not great, but I think what I subscribe to is like it's going to get better. But I think that like it's going to get better in the way that like good people are going to amplify it, and it's going to take the baseline of somebody who's not good and bring them up to the standard of AI.
Raise the floor.
And then great people are going to accelerate beyond that. So I don't know. I'm in a bunch of like business owner groups too, and like we're just always chopping it up on like, what are you guys seeing? What are you seeing? I have yet to talk to somebody who has the killer use case. And I have a lot of conversations, I feel like. And a lot of people are excited, and business owners tend to be just optimistic in general. And so they're like trying to find opportunities. I think it can make people more productive right now. I have yet to find true, like, I don't know, elimination of entire roles. And I'm not saying that's not going to happen. Like, I bet if you previously had to have 10 customer support agents, you'll need 5. I bet if a previous creative strategist could make 40 concepts a week, now they'll make 60. Like, I think that all of that's going to happen. So I'm not naive to that. I think it just means that every individual person's expectation of output is going to rise as technology improves.
Yeah, no, that's the case. That's the case.
So you're a part of, you know, the hiring process. You see the hiring process. You see a lot of the hiring questions.
Yeah.
Famously, there's been some really wild questions that have come out of SpaceX, Elon Musk with crazy questions. All those guys, where Google will have some really crazy questions for interviewers. Do you have any that, you know, founders should be asking to these potential candidates, whether that's all across the board, that you really like or that you've pulled out where you're like, this is absolutely fantastic for the D2C e-commerce community?
So I can speak from a recruiter standpoint, right? Like, so we hire a lot of recruiters over here to try to find talent better. And as the team grows, we need that. And like what I've realized for the role specifically of a recruiter is asking the questions of, tell me a time that you've worked really hard on something. Tell me a time that you've been really curious about something. Can be work related, not work related. And to me, that just kind of shows that like they're going down rabbit holes and they give a shit, and like they're actually like spending time on this thing. I think the curiosity piece is so important if you're an e-commerce marketer, because the stuff changes so freaking fast, guys.
It's true.
Like that, like if you're not consuming shows like this, if you're not on X, if you're not on YouTube, if you're not listening to podcasts, like you're just not going to know what to focus on. And you talk to a lot of legacy marketers and you're like, oh, you do what? Like, and so like clearly they're just not like re-educating themselves. And unfortunately, if your education stops after college, then like you're not going to really make it in this space. Like you have to constantly be learning about the trends. So I would say that's a big one. There's also just like 2 ways to really go about this though, from my experience, and 2 hiring philosophies that a lot of e-commerce companies have. Number 1, you see, okay, you're a channel expert. Show me all the things that you can talk about in this channel. What are other brands doing? Who are you looking up for? Like really go deep on the channel expertise. And this applies across everything, right? Like whether you're paid search, whether you're operations and fulfillment, whether you're finance, like talk to me about like really nitty gritty skill set. There's also a lot of hiring managers that don't care about all of that. And it shocks the skill set channel specific hiring managers because they're like, this is so important because they feel like it is. There's other hiring managers who are like, no, we're just going to recruit like X McKinsey, X Bain, and like they're smart people. They're going to figure it out. And like they get in their 90-day ramp and like they're running circles around people who are like, I don't know, like on paper, maybe less intelligent, but have done stuff for 5 years in the industry. So there's two hiring philosophies, and I feel like as long as you
Yeah.
go one or the other and have people who are smart and curious, that covers most of the boxes.
I am so interested in that, specifically those two hiring philosophies of I push back on it, and I am back and forth on it every single day of like, do you go after the ex McKinsey, ex Bain guy who's, dialed in, sharp, great education, went to Wharton, whatever, or do you just go after the dude who is just putting in 12-hour days and is just a grinder and he
Yeah.
just figures it out? And I think there's like two camps that you sit, and I don't know. Every day I go back and forth on it. That's such a good point you make.
The cool thing is that both work, and I don't think you have to go back and forth. I think it's incredibly situational dependent, and just being open to both. But also the reality is too, guys, like there's some people with forces of nature that fall in every camp under the sun, and like it within the first 3 minutes. And so what I always tell our clients is like, if you're not feeling it in the first 5 minutes of the call, like don't try to force a hire that you aren't jazzed up about. Like you're gonna know if they're good or not very, very quickly.
I love that.
I do too. I do too. And knowing my strengths and what kind of person I am, I'll take the Wharton hire, man. Give me McKinsey. Give me Isabel Washington. I'm the 12-hour. I'm the 12-hour days. Figure it out. Just get into it and stay up late till 3 a.m. I mean, that's me. So I'll tell you. So give me McKinsey. I want Isabel Washington from Laurels. But tell me this, Connor. I advise a lot of young marketers just here in the Austin area and people that I know and meet, et cetera. And sometimes they interview. I know what kind of skills they have. I know, I wouldn't recommend people if they weren't, but I know that you talk to a lot of these people and you see them at such, man, what's one thing or a few things that you just wish you could just ingrain to everybody who like wants a job and wants to interview? Like, what would you tell them? Like, hey, don't do that. Hey, do this. Like you're missing it. What's on your kind of like dummy list that you wish everybody could just know who wants a job in e-com?
Yeah, I mean, the bar's low, and I don't mean the bar's low. The point of like, there's not the talent out there. Like, there's fantastic talent, but like, I'm constantly surprised. I'm constantly surprised at what people don't do when you feel like it's common sense. Like, you follow up on an interview. You just talk to the guy for 45 minutes, an hour, send him an email and say, hey, it was great to chat with y'all. Would love to be continuing the conversation. Going into the interview is just like prepared. Like some people are great, but they're also busy. And if you're interviewing Q4 or a busy time of the year, maybe you don't check out the meta ad library ahead of the call or poke around some ideas. Like people love when you come into an interview with ideas on what you can do for them and very clear past examples on how you've grown and like scaled in a specific channel or, meaningfully contributed to a company. So that would be the number one thing. And the best people do that. Like they show up prepared. They're ready to go. Like they've have their notes in front of them. I'd say the thing that I would want to call out slightly though too is the inverse of this question. Like what can companies do? Because this is something that I think in the e-commerce category, once again, is very rare that you'll have so many of these companies who they never have to really try that hard when recruiting international talent because they're paying way above the market pay scale and it's affordable for them. So like the idea of sending somebody a test project and asking them to get on a Loom or whatever like that before you ever speak to them, that doesn't fly for US based talent. And some people might call that entitled or whatever, but like the reality is to recruit truly the best talent, they have a lot of options and you just sell yourself on why you're the place to work. And I think a lot of e-commerce consumer brands forget about that because agencies are pitching them. They have no problem in recruiting international employees because they're paying above the market pay scale. And so as soon as they're ready to start building out their full-time in-house team from like a domestic standpoint and like key leaders, they're like, oh, they should be so lucky to work for me. I'm like, there's 20 other companies that they're interviewing with right now that are
really good point.
More well-known, like, have a straightforward process. So like, I think a lot of times, we work with clients on like, okay, what's the sales pitch? Like, you can't pay as much as the next guy can, but like you have a half-day Fridays or like, you get products or like there's a fast-tracked promotion and like there's a really meaningful opportunity in the market, and like get people jazzed up about that. So like at the end of the day, like all hiring is, it's basically like dating. You're selling yourself on both sides. You don't want to seem too needy on either side. You want to make sure that it's the right fit both ways. And I think the best candidates and hiring managers both know that.
That's
Wow.
sauce.
That
That's
is sauce.
sauce.
I think Heart and Soil does a great job at this, where they sell the culture a lot
Oh,
more.
boy, they do. They do.
You know,
no
where
doubt.
it is, you get imbued and you're just thinking, once they hire me, I'm going to be jacked and immediately have an 8-pack and start lifting things and sprinting everywhere. It's really well done what they've done and built out.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Connor, man, we appreciate you making the time and jumping on here. Before you go, you've got to tell us, man, I've heard when people start working with you, they start meeting candidates inside of a week. I mean, something crazy like that. And for people who want to know more, they want to talk to you, they've got a need and they need your help. Where do they go? Where do they find you? What's that look like?
Yeah, constanthire.com. And feel free to shoot me an email, book a call, DM me on Twitter. I'm around for all of it. So whatever y'all need, I can make myself available.
Connor's going to teach you how to sell yourself, which is necessary when you want top tier talent. Connor, man, we appreciate having you. We're going to look forward to having you back.
Thank y'all.